thank everybody for showing up tonight, braving the elements. If we could, roll call vote, please.
John Brotherton. Here. Joe Robinson.
Here.
Andy Graham.
Here.
Mark Keys. Bill Sweat.
Here. Okay, we have at least 4 members here. We have a quorum, so we can convene this meeting. Before we go any further, just like to let you people know out in the audience that we're trying something new this time. We have Facebook Live, so smile, you're on candid camera.
I don't give you my permission to do
As long as we don't use your name, Lois, you're fine.
Stop bullying me. Sorry. I'm sorry. I'll
That's
calm
okay.
down.
This moves on to item number 2.
Control me.
Is the consent agenda item. The items we have are, first is the board meeting minutes. It's the regular meeting for February 20th, 2020, and special meeting on March 3rd, 2020, and then open and closed session minutes. Second item are the bills and treasurer report. C, we have donations. We have an anonymous $250 per school for activity funds.
Wow.
Thanks whoever did that. Empowering education grants from Eastern Illinois Electric Cooperative, it's $500 each. Emily Stratton, East Lawn social worker, Girls on the Run, and Abby Schwarzentraub. Did I do it? I don't believe it. Okay. Broad Meadow kindergarten teacher, Sensory Hallway. And then we were just informed that we were awarded the maintenance grant for $43,041 for fire panels, which is required to our 10-year health life plan. Over 750 districts applied for the grant, not known how many were awarded. And there's one other item that's missing on here, and that is, if we don't mind adding D, and that is to approve the agenda as presented.
Oh, you are right.
So item D is to approve the agenda as presented. So anybody have any questions regarding the agenda? If not, and if everybody agrees with the consent agenda items, then would someone care to make a motion to approve the consent agenda items to include ratification of bills prepaid by the finance manager under board policy 450?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Mr. Robinson made the motion. Mr. Graham seconded. And we'll need a roll call vote, please.
Graham.
Aye.
Brotherton.
Aye.
Keys. Robinson.
Aye.
Sweat.
Aye. Okay, it's unanimous, that motion carries, and the consent agenda items are approved. Also, to the press, just thought I'd let you know, we're trying something new tonight, Facebook Live, so smile, your wife, you can't camera. All right, item number 3, we didn't remove anything from the consent agenda, so we can move in item 3. Item number 4 is the public forum. Did anybody forget to sign to the sheet to want to speak? There's nobody there? Mr. Wood, you want him to sign for the public agenda? Okay. Hang on. Okay. All right, this moves us to item number 5, which is the care program updates. So, Ms. Crawford, the special education coordinator, and Laura Fondia, the care teacher. You guys are up.
They did make a really short presentation, I was trying to get it to load. There it goes, okay.
Oh, is that little one down? It should do both. Is that one on? Or is it red now? Yeah.
I think it just waited long enough, it went off.
I guess I'll get some glass, right?
I'm trying to get it there.
Now it's off. I'll see you. That is off too.
I suppose we can read it, because it's not very long.
See, I don't see anything on that one over there.
I can look forward to reading it if you want. Pardon me? I can read it to you. They
presentation in their packet.
Right.
They can all see your computers, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just, and it will be posted online, it's just that you won't be able to see this.
All right, so we,
I'm gonna try. Okay.
the numbers have definitely increased from last school year. For quarter one, there were 26 suspensions for 25 students served. Quarter two had 31 suspensions for 27 students served. And quarter three had 26 suspensions for 24 students served. Laura, has been in the field. Laura has been in the field a total of 33 days this year, and that has included more than 450 check-ins with students. And those check-ins look at follow-ups, talking about what they did at the program and how they carried it to school. There's been behavior support. There's been almost 200 check-ins with teachers for on the field days, and that includes, she did some lessons for the classes and did a few read-alouds with different classes. And then she just talked to the teachers to see if there were any improvements after the students attended the CARE program. She's conducted 50 check-ins with administrators during her field days. And she's hosted 20 CARE Club meetings. And I'll let her comment a little bit about what the CARE Club meetings look like.
So typically I pick a social emotional content and link it with an activity for whatever, usually season or holiday, just to make it more engaging for them. And then we'll either do a craft or an activity together as a reminder of, so for example, we made turkey bookmarks around Thanksgiving, and they, on the feathers, wrote things they were grateful for, and then reminded them that they can use gratitude as a coping strategy for when they're upset about something. And they take that with them then. And that's with every student that I have had in my class.
And then she has attended 10 re-entry conferences. So what that looks like compared to last year, at this time last year, we were at about 38 suspensions. This year, we have completed 83 visits to the room. So it has more than doubled. Last year, Laura was on maternity leave for quarter three, but even when you look at the numbers for each quarter, they've almost doubled. So we have been able to serve a lot more students this year. Some barriers to this year's program has been, since the increased attendance at the CARE program, she's had less opportunities to do follow-ups at the schools. Hasn't been able to attend as many re-entry meetings because of increased student attendance. And the re-entries are a really valuable part for the parents and school staff, so Laura can help enter the kids back to school. Then we ran into a snow day this year, so how do we plan for that? And we always welcome the students to make up the day if they miss it, so we are able to be flexible and do that. And then when a student misses a day, what does it look like if they should return if it's 1 day absent or 2 day absent? So Laura works really closely with admin to accommodate all the needs of the students in the building. Parental involvement is still somewhat of an issue. Last year we conducted home visits. We didn't have parents come into the meetings, and this year that's been a struggle as well too. So, and then we've only had a couple instances of physical aggression in the class where we've had to ask a student to leave for the day and not return the next day. Successes this year include increase in students served. There has been an increase in prevention of out-of-school suspensions. We've had more visits the first 3 quarters of this year than we've had the entire school year of last year. The flexibility with accommodating admin requests. For example, one day I had elementary call me and ask if Laura could come there immediately to help with a student who was recently in the program, and Laura was really flexible and went there right away. Then we had another school request that we try a CARE program in school suspension at the building instead of at Broadmeadow, and Laura was very flexible and accommodated that request as well. And then she has a really good success story to share with you guys.
I had a student, I want to say 2 weeks ago, and she had actually visited, she was one of the first students to the program last year when she was in 4th grade, and she had come to me and had a good 2 days with me, and then went back and kind of turned it around for the rest of the year last year and the entire first semester this year, to the point where she told me her principal referred to it as beginning of fourth grade student and, end of fourth grade, like comparison of her kind of two different personalities there. And so I asked her what had changed last year, and because she came back to me now, and she said, I came to care. And when I came there, I was able to realize how to work through some things and take it back to the class, and with the help of my teacher, be reminded to apply that. And she really felt like that helped her turn it around. So, I mean, usually we see a rate of like a couple days to a couple weeks and sometimes a few months between incidences. And for her, I mean, it was a year and a half. So to hear her say that that meant a lot to her was really meaningful to our program.
And we've also had less transportation issues this year. So I think with adjusting it to it being housed at an elementary school has been a big improvement for the program. And that was it.
Board members have any questions or anything?
I got a couple, just real quick. Do I need to use this? It's one of the-
Yes,
Um,
even more so.
So, are we even approaching capacity with this program, or what do you think capacity would be? Are we close to it? Can we have more kids? Are we utilizing it to its fullest abilities, do you think, or do you think we could use it more?
One roadblock we have right now is the TA resigned. So we have asked to put a cap on it to have 4 students a day because Laura is solo right now. There have been discussion about expanding the program, however, with our certified staff vacancies right now, we would like to make sure those vacancies are filled first before we will start looking at expanding the program for care.
Okay, so we're getting close to capacity then, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm not really sure what we define as capacity for the program,
Yeah.
but
Can I address that one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with the intention of our program is to give some really specific structured support for them, since it's a 2-day intensive. And so we could do more, especially with the aid. But, my room it could fit more, the room, but with the supports that I give them, it's good to be able to have that individualized time. And then the other factor is the reasons that they're being sent to care are all for pretty intense, referral situations. And most of the referrals that we're seeing are for physical aggression, and when you group them all together, that's
We
where
don't have more physical aggression there.
Right, and that's where, with the one staff member, the capacity sort of,
Okay,
does that help?
that helps. I just wanna know if we could utilize it more, or if we're utilizing it too much, or if we need to do something else if it's working.
We would love to expand.
And then is there any particular reason one school seems really down compared to others? Is there any reason on that, or?
it's
Oh, for
hard to-
usage?
Yeah.
Um,
Is there-
we don't control who gets referred to the program.
I just didn't know if they had a particular problem or issue or anything
It's up
that,
to building administrators, and really, I looked at the behavior data the past couple years, and it's really been hard to use that, to see if any effect on care, because with the shifts of programs in each
Right.
school, so it's hard to really tell if that's a determining factor, so.
it's pretty clear.
Yeah, with
Pretty
all
clear
the,
that,
with the way the programs have moved into buildings, it wouldn't really be a fair thing to say, well, they have less suspensions this year because they're using care more, because the student population in each building has changed this year.
I just didn't know something was different with that building.
Yeah.
I will say, I think that the administrators in general this year have been doing a really good job utilizing the program more than last year and in more effective ways than last year. So they are sending me more students that are not repeatedly doing the same extreme things, but they're kind of catching them a little bit earlier, so that I can break through a little bit more in the beginning stages of that, and I've really liked seeing that.
At the end of the day, your goal is to stop classroom disruptions, basically.
Help them make better decisions in their school days, yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else have any other questions? moves us to item number 6. It's an action item. It's job description and position. The special education administrator and the academic coordinator for bilingual and ESL program. Ms. Didier and Mr. Woods.
All right, so, as you are aware, I came into this position last year, mid-year, and we were not able to fill my assistant director position when I moved into the director position. It has, been a wonderful year having a special ed coordinator, which is the position we moved towards, for this school year. And it's been very, very helpful, but it is evident that we do, really need somebody in an administrative position to assist with evaluation. As of this time, 2 years ago, we have about 80 more students with identified special needs and IEPs than we did 2 years ago. So that need is certainly increasing, and I would also just add that the needs of our students with special needs is increasing as well.
So there are obviously things that an administrator can, do that a coordinator necessarily can't. And one of them, Allison did mention, was evaluations. Allison has more evaluations than any principal has, and it's over 5 buildings of certified staff. So it's really pulling her time. If we can divide that out so that we can have more time with Allison, and then the new special ed administrator, that would be a more effective use of administrative time. So we're really essentially going back to what it was before. When we had a director and assistant director, we're just, instead of calling it an assistant director, we're gonna call it a special ed administrator. So it's back to what we had before.
Good evening. The academic coordinator for bilingual ESL programming, again, this is not an additional position. This is, the intent is reclassifying a current employee and shifting some of our bilingual staff is how we're doing this. So the idea is we currently have 2 bilingual coordinators in the district that are stipended positions that teachers have. Currently Michelle Koretke and Patricia Valente. As the program has grown a lot in the last year and we have significantly more staff in the program, and as we're doing a lot more parent outreach, we need someone who's focusing more on the elementary school and maintaining those relationships with our staff and the families that we're serving. Keep in mind, we don't have a principal at East Lawn or PA that's a Spanish speaker, and this also helps with that communication piece between the school and the parents. This is not an administrative ad, so this is going to be posted as a position for, will most likely be an existing bilingual ESL staff member in our district that would take over that role. But, as I said, it's not adding staff to the district, it's us kind of shifting resources and where people are in order to make this position happen. Do you have any questions?
Any questions? John? Joe? Any questions? Andy? All right, if there aren't any questions, then would someone care to make a motion to approve the job description and positions of special education administrator and academic coordinator for bilingual ESL programming?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Mr. Robinson made the motion. Mr. Brotherton seconded. And we'll need a roll call vote on that, please.
Robinson,
Aye.
Brotherton.
Aye.
Graham,
Aye.
Sweat.
Aye. Okay, it's unanimous, it's motion carries, we're approved. This moves us to item number 7, it's an action item. It's the RCESPA Tuition Reimbursement Memorandum of Understanding. Michelle?
All right, we have lots of memorandums of understandings tonight. I get to talk about the most exciting one. Sorry, Tara, you'll be the next 2. Mine is, ours is the most exciting. So during the last RCS, RCESPA negotiations, that was just this past fall that we finished that up, we added a new item to the collective bargaining agreement. and it was regarding tuition reimbursement for selected teaching assistants to return to school to obtain their teaching degree. We have wanted to do this for a long time. We are finally there. At that point, we did not have the details worked out, but both sides agreed, let's get something in the contract. Let's figure this out as we go along. We'll just have an MOU when we know all the details. We have 3 teaching assistants who are returning to school. In turn, that means they will be, when they finish, committed to RCS for 5 years. We hope for way longer than that, but for a minimum of 5 years. And we did put out an email blast to all of the teaching assistants and ask anybody who was interested to come meet with us. And we had 3. So 3 came forward, 3 were selected and approved for this program. I believe that they are all starting this summer. 2 of them want to be special ed teachers, and one of them wants to be, and it's a male, wants to be a pre-K teacher. So we did say that all of this would be tied to a shortage area, so we would select them based on what teaching shortage areas we have. Every area that we have is a teaching shortage. So, but we really love the fact that we have 2 special ed and a pre-K, because those are very short. The association has already signed off on this MOU, so it's just in the hands of the board. And we will build this into the budget this coming July.
Any board members have any questions? Comments? If not, then would someone care to make a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding for the RCESPA tuition reimbursement?
So, I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Brotherton made the motion, Mr. Graham seconded. And we'll need a roll call vote.
Robinson,
Aye.
Brotherton,
Aye.
Graham,
Aye.
Sweat.
Aye. Unanimous, and motion's carried, and it's approved. Then we move on to number 8, which is an action item, and Kara Minion will be the one to do the presentation for the RCESPA, RCS, and RCSEA, RCS Workers' Compensation Memorandum of Understanding.
So as Michelle said, she had the fun one. Mine is not so fun. It's just procedure. So there was a need for a clear procedure on how workers' compensation cases were handled at RCS. So going forward, RCS will receive the temporary total disability payments from our workers' compensation company, which we've been doing, but now we will not process it. We will just copy the original or we will copy it and send the original directly to the employee who is off. And per the Illinois Workers' Compensation law, employees will be allowed to use PTO for the first 3 days that they are out. But the district will no longer allow any PTO, that's paid time off, to be used after the first 3 days, because the workers' compensation payments will be made to them directly. So it's just a procedural thing to make sure that we're doing the same thing every time.
Anybody have any questions?
We did meet and discuss with both unions who were in agreement. I guess I should have that part down.
So we're not able to use time, because workman's comp, you don't get 100% payment, right?
You get 66 2/3, and no taxes are taken out. So you were never allowed to use like full time off if you were using like 1/3 or 1 every 3 days kind of thing. There was potential for overpayment, and having to try to reconcile that with TRS and IMRF
Okay.
was extremely difficult and not being done correctly, and then having to go back and fix and that kind of
So
thing.
this is what we're doing as industry norm with everybody,
Yeah, it's pretty.
district norm. Okay.
Any other questions? And Mark, we were talking about the workers' compensation.
We're gonna talk.
So if nobody else has any questions, then would someone care to make a motion to approve the RCS, ESPA / RCS and RCSEA / RCS Workers' Compensation Memorandum?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, motion by Mr. Robinson. I'll go on and second.
Brotherton,
Aye.
Robinson,
Aye.
Sweat,
Aye. Did you ask keys?
Those who were here long enough to hear that.
and, that,
We read that.
I read that,
And that's
so.
all she said.
yeah.
So-
okay, all right, thank you, I wasn't sure.
Okay. All righty, so it's a unanimous, and motion carries, so it's approved. Moves us on to number 9, which is the ESPA, RCS, and RCSEA, RCS Health Insurance Memorandum of Understanding. And Ms. Minion?
Okay, once again, not an exciting thing, more of a procedural thing. The recent past procedure was for insurance coverage to begin the first day of employment. There were issues with both employees and RCS have arisen because of that policy. Both employer and employee were being charged for a whole month of coverage when they weren't getting that coverage. And with the school year starting earlier and earlier, it was happening that anytime they started before the 15th of the month, they were being charged and the district was being charged for a full month of insurance. And they weren't getting the insurance the full month. And most of the time, especially at the beginning of the year, school would start on the 13th, they would be hired just shortly before that. They wouldn't get cards or know anything about coverage until September, but we would then have to deduct the insurance premiums out of their check double the first time they got a paycheck, to try to catch up for what was being paid. So we proposed the change that the insurance would begin the first day of the month after your start date. For example, in the fall, new hires coverage would start September 1st. It wouldn't impact any current employees. It is definitely standard, industry standard for insurance to start the first month after you become employed. And we met with both unions signed off on that, so we did go ahead and vote to make that change.
Anybody have any questions? Comments?
Real exciting stuff, guys, I'm sorry.
So then, would someone care to make a motion to approve the RCESPA, RCS, and RCSEA, RCS Health Insurance Memorandum of Understanding?
So moved.
Alrighty, motion was made by Mr. Graham, seconded by Mr. Robinson, and we'll need a roll call vote on that, please.
Brotherton,
Aye.
Robinson,
Aye.
Graham,
Aye.
Keys,
Aye.
Sweat.
Aye. Okay, it's unanimous, the motion carries, and it's been approved. Okay, action number 10 is an action item. It's the Cultivadores Healthy Choices contract. Dr. Woods and Nelson. How you doing,
I've
Nelson?
invited Mr. Cuevas to come up. This is Nelson Cuevas. We initially, when we had this put on the agenda, I thought I would have the contract done for the two of us for the program we're looking to do. The contract's not going to be ready yet, but the hope is, if there's no concerns, that at least at the next board meeting, we won't present again, but you would be able to take action on that contract. So I'm going to let Nelson kind of explain what his program is, but I will say I'm very excited to have the opportunity to partner with Mr. Cuevas and Cultivators to provide some services for our most at-risk students. He'll explain what he's going to be doing. We are aiming at starting off with about 10 to 12 students. They just happen to all be boys, is our first group that Ms. Nelson's going to work with us. So he's going to explain what he's going to do and how he's doing it and how you got the money and all that good stuff. All right, and he's up.
All right.
I got you.
All right, this is just a summary. I didn't want to hold anybody hostage, so I just wanted to keep it simple.
You're a preacher, you know that.
Yeah, they've been keeping me behind the desk, so let me not let it loose here. All right, so we got a contract by the state of Illinois for $204,000 a year for 5 years, renewable every fiscal year. I am a certified addiction counselor for the state of Illinois for the last 11 years. I've done prevention and education for about 15 years. Actually, we did this program before at Rancho Township High School. However, When they eliminated Title V, funding went with it, and when they took the faith initiatives, everything else went with that as well. However, the new administration in the state of Illinois has revived, through other resources, funding for prevention and education in the areas of gambling, substance abuse, drugs, alcohol, and so on, anything that connects to that. And we're asked to collaborate with the schools to address the risk factors that are mentioned on this informative paper that I gave you. The early intervention service facilitates emotional and social stability to involve referral for treatment. I'll give you examples. If kids are repeated absence, gang involvement, or whatever. Today a gang is 2 or 3 people. We're not looking at 10, 20, 30 people. Where 2 or 3 gather and do the wrong thing, you have a gang mob. That's how I see it. All the criminal justice involvement, absence from the family, substance abuse disorders. Our goal is not to cause a stigma, stereotype anyone. We're professional. We got a group of professional. We got a social worker on our team and 2 licensed counselors in our team. I represent Region 3 Champaign, so our office is in Cultivators in Rantoul. We got one in Champaign. On Randolph, our main office is in Danville on Vermilion, 120 Vermilion. That's where the central office is. That's where we partner with Alpha Omega. However, like I said, it's not to pinpoint or stereotype, but it's just to address issues before they escalate, before they become a disorder. So what we do is we facilitate groups and provide the topics that I just mentioned through the referral of the school district or teachers that are just having issues that are causing disruptions in the classroom that also go along with the risk factors that we just mentioned that are written here. So if they fall into that category, the parents cannot say that they're being stereotyped because there's evidence that they have these risk factors that are pretty obvious. And what we do is in a group setting, we show videos, we have activities, we interact with them, we do assessment, and if we see that the child or the youth needs further help, then we make a referral to our own agency to provide them with free counseling services through our grant. The good thing about this contract, this grant with the state, is that it's free access to those who need it through this funding, which is the funding through the Gambling Act. And we're able to do whatever is necessary that connects to those behaviors as well, other behaviors that connect to this. Meaning that if they're documented, undocumented, U.S. citizen, non-citizen, have insurance, don't have insurance, we're able to still provide professional counseling services at no cost to the family, to the youth, to the parents, or to all family members. And we do have a team that we put together to make that available to the whole county. However, I just thought that starting at home, keeping it local first, was the ideal to do. We need to address our youth first before we go anywhere else. And I got a funny feeling that we're not going to be able to go anywhere else, so there's plenty of work to do here. The other, the cherry on top is that my staff is bilingual, fluent. So we speak both languages, so you get 2 for 1. If you have any questions, I'm here.
Do you want to clarify the gambling aspect? Correct me if I'm wrong, the funding is coming from, because Danville has a casino, is this what's
Well,
happening?
the thing is, with more casinos coming out, the state has found a way to get more money. I don't know how, and I don't want to know how. Because they have money for one thing, but they don't for other. The good thing is they have money for this. So anyways, it's called, we changed our name from DASA, which is the Division of Alcohol and Substance Abuse. Now we call ourselves, well, they call ourselves, I just say we because I'm certified through them. It's called Substance Abuse Prevention and Recovery. So we will fall under the prevention and recovery. So what they're doing is casinos, gaming, game rooms where slot machines, etc. They're having to put in 2 to 4% of their earnings into this pot. And then it's something similar to, and I won't get into that's another topic with the marijuana, how they do that. That's not my area, but this is. So with that 4%, it gets distributed to provide prevention, early intervention, and counseling to agencies that have the right certifications and the training. We just got back from trainings to kind of pinpoint, again, we're very, very careful, not causing any stereotype or bringing any issues that may cause all of us as a community more issues than we already have. So we'll be very careful on the wording and everything we do. But the money's coming from the casinos and others that they have, the agreement they made with the state that allows them to continue to be the vendors in our community in the gambling area. Does that make sense?
Okay. And what you'll see on the contract when we get it in front of you is it's a little unusual. It's a facility use agreement. And what it spells out is the partnership that we're doing and what cultivators will provide, what the school will provide. This is not a cost to the school. The only thing it's a cost to us is providing the space, which is at no charge. Providing space during the school day so he can meet with our kids and do work with the kids. So the contract is basically just putting the parameters in place as far as his employees and him having the background checks, the proper insurance, the proper credentials, all of that is spelled out in there. Yeah, and I'm excited.
Yeah, and so are we. And again, I wanted to emphasize that, you know, we really want to make sure that if this goes through, that we're able to work with the kids in the school setting, because after school is just difficult. However, we will have an aftercare for those who are officially diagnosed either with gambling disorder, substance abuse disorder, alcohol disorder, them or their family, and then that group, then they get a referral to where they have more privacy. You know, they're now sent to either our facility or whatever facility we have available through our funding. If they decide to go to Rosecrans, for example, we don't cover that. You know, that's on them. But if they choose our licensed facility, then they get free care.
Any questions?
So just to clarify, the services that are being provided at Ader are students? Are families coming in? Are parents coming in?
Well, no, parents will not come in. When I say parents is, eventually we do an assessment, and we may have the parent come in if necessary.
Sure, right.
You know, and if we feel that if there's a diagnosis, to answer the question, if we diagnose that there's a disorder or probability, he's a high candidate, then we're gonna assess the whole family. Because we're gonna try to get the whole family help. So that would be the only way the parent would come in. However, we would need, and we mentioned this on the MOU, parents' consent to participate. But our goal is to help anyone that's needed that falls in this category.
So he only need parent consent to meet with the kids, and then that consent also gives the school the ability to share information with Nelson and his staff about the students.
How do you identify the students that have that issue? It seems like it's a huge issue with gambling or whatever in the schools. So how would you identify it? It seems like it would be more of a family issue.
I would say to start, when Nelson and I were first talking, we're looking at students who already have some of the high risk factors. I would not say I have a gambling problem in the school, but that's the way this funding works. Is it's the risk factors. So the students that we have been talking about are students who have attendance issues, course failure. Some of them are already in alternative situations in the school, and some of them, I would say, we are aware pretty easily that they're alcohol and drug users. Marijuana is not an underused drug, unfortunately. So the kids that we're going to start off with right away it was not hard for me to think of who those kids are to start. Once we get the program going and we know more, that demographic could shift for us.
Again, the risk factors is our guide. And I guess it speaks for itself. If they happen to be displaying one of these unacceptable behaviors in the schools. Because it's unacceptable in the schools, we can't say what's acceptable at home. It's what's not acceptable in school. Then the referral comes to us through, the school system, and then we take it from there. When it comes to gambling is just one of the components, that's just our ticket. Meaning if I do a 60-minute session, or one of my staff does a 60-minute session, we have to cover at least 10 minutes of gambling. Even though we do 50 minutes of anything else, is gonna address the risk factors.
Is this program just limited to Hispanic students?
Oh, no, not at all.
Actually, the first, sadly or strangely, the first group of kids that we've identified, none of them are Spanish speakers in the first group. It doesn't mean they're not Latino, but they're just not students in our bilingual program right now.
That was a
Maybe-
good question, though. I'm glad you asked.
Yeah.
It didn't sound like
Yeah, okay.
Maybe a reminder or an awareness that we have something similar with an agreement with Hope Springs, which provides counseling at our schools,
So-
an outside agency that uses our
A
facility.
difference right here, though, is Hope Springs comes in and does one-on-one counseling. For now, we're only looking at doing small groups during the school day.
Can I just add to, one of the greatest struggles that we have with our Hope Springs arrangement right now is that they don't have any bilingual services to provide, and so I would imagine this would be incredibly beneficial for our student population.
Anybody else have any questions?
Nelson, what about funding? Now, you said for 1 year, hopefully it's gonna be continued.
It's a 5-year contract that gets renewed every fiscal year. It's not based on percentage or did we do good. It's just written that way. It's just a contract. I mean, if like they give us 200,000 and we don't use it up, we gotta give some of it back. But for now, we have 5 years ahead of us that we can work with. So we'll just take this 1 year at a time.
And just so the board knows, are we the only school in town you're working with?
I'm working with, we're on 2 Township High School. Again.
I set you up for that.
Yeah, you did set me up with that one, but, again, we wanna start at home first. This is our community. I've been here, 20 years? And, most of you know that I've always dedicated myself to work with this population, black, white, orange, or Latinos. It's always been an area, a passion of ours. So, if we got the funds, we're gonna invest it in our community first.
So if, any other questions? So then if not, this is not an action item right now because we don't have anything to approve. So, we'll just, make sure we get this on the agenda at our next meeting.
Our attorneys.
Yeah, so I guess, is it fair for me to ask if there are any concerns at this time, or can we expect it, as long as the contract is prepped by the attorneys and I'm here, if you have any questions, we'll be fine at the next meeting? Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Nelson. This moves us to item number 11, which is an action item. That is the preparation of a tentative 2020-2021 budget. The board must designate a person or persons to prepare a tentative budget for fiscal year 2021. Nobody has any questions or concerns or comments, and would someone care to make a motion to designate the superintendent, Ms. Ramage, to prepare a tentative budget for fiscal year 2020 through 2021? Motion made by Mr. Keys. Seconded by Mr. Robinson. And all those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Okay, that's unanimous, the motion carries. Unless you want to put Kendra in there or something.
No, he doesn't.
All right, this moves us on to item number 12. It's an information item. For item A, it's FOIAs. We will now be showing the cost to prepare the FOIAs due to several people asking the cost. So So we have one for you from the Parents Foundation. It's on employee information. The cost to the district was $210.47 to prepare that for you. We have local labs. It's the high school grading scale. Cost to the district was $0. Then item B, we have calendar items. March 16th through the 20th is going to be our spring break. April 20th through 23rd, kindergarten registration at schools from 9 to 11 and 1 to 3. And then on April 23rd from 5 to 7. And then Friday, April 24th from 1 to 3. Mad City Money is for the 8th graders at J.W. Yater. And this is presented by the Community Plus Credit Union. And then item C, we're scratching off, is no building reports for the month of March. And then D, we have suspension reports for January and February, and the board, it's in your board packet if you had a chance to review those. Any questions or comments regarding the information that's presented? If not, this moves on to item number 13, which is a board superintendent comment. And Michelle, would you like to pick your comment?
So I thought, I won't take a long time on this, but I thought that I would just at least give the board an update and the public who are here tonight on COVID, COVID-19, although it's probably already changed, because we've been sitting in here for almost 45 minutes. So it's really kind of old news. But as you're aware, we've heard about all the cancellations and closings due to COVID-19. And I just wanted you to know that we've been preparing for these possibilities for at least the last 2 weeks, if not longer. So we sent letters out to parents via email and by paper during about a week ago. During that time, and it was just to talk about the precautions, the same information that you've seen over and over again, what precautions to take at home and what are we doing in our schools. We sent a letter home today along with packets of activities and links to our website for those who can access online learning and have a device at home in anticipation of any possibility of closing after spring break. Because we're going on to spring break, we wanted to be able to get information into students and families' hands before we left for break today. We have not heard that we are closing, and I don't want anybody to misinterpret that. You have to be really careful what you say. But we want families to be prepared. There have been many meetings and many phone calls for superintendents over the last 3 days. On a side note, on the information that was sent home, the junior high sent home a large packet today of information, and already Dr. Woods received the following message about this process, and I thought it would be great to share. As a parent who recently moved here, I just want to say thank you for all the efforts being made by the staff in the Rancho area. I am truly grateful to have my kids in this district at this time with all that is going on. So that spoke volumes, I think. So, because we don't always hear the positive, we hear mostly the negative. We are working on an e-learning plan to put in place that we are going to ask the board to approve on March 30th at the special board meeting that we have. We have a special board meeting because of the board vacancy, which we'll talk a little bit later in the meeting about. I won't go into depth tonight about an e-learning plan, but we will talk about that on the 30th. While we do have enough devices for every child to take home a device, it doesn't do a lot of good if our students don't have access to the internet. So that is a concern of ours. So I know that RTHS has that same concern. We've spoken quite a bit over the last few days. We are also currently working with RTHS and their feeder districts regarding continuing meals for students if we were told that we would be closing, because that is a major concern. Besides, obviously, the academic time that's lost, we are concerned because a lot of students rely on our free breakfast and free lunch every day. So that we are working on, actually as we speak, we're working on that if we're closed. And we are working on a plan for if we are closed, making sure that our students and staff are safe upon return. Those who traveled, those who didn't travel. Just to make sure that we have a procedure, a protocol for that when if we're closed, for how we return. or even if we are not closed, how we return from spring break. We have people who are traveling over spring break, so that we are working on. Heavy cleaning obviously will occur during spring break. Our custodians work during spring break, and this is a moment just to acknowledge that this is a very busy time for our custodians and that they are at work, and just to thank them for that. And lastly, thank you for everybody's patience. It changes, like I said, it feels like every minute, okay, but maybe it's every hour. We are doing the very best that we can to make decisions and get information out as fast as we can. It doesn't do a lot of, it's not very helpful if a decision is made in Champaign or Urbana and then our phone starts ringing off the hook when we're trying to respond and get information out. So it just, please to continue to ask for patience for when we're making decisions and we will get that information out just as quickly as we can. And a lot of this is trial and error. We've not been through this before. Nobody has been through this before that is alive. So there are a lot of lessons learned, and we just appreciate any patience that you have. Comments or questions or thoughts from the board?
Just, so you've taken the steps with the staff, if they are going outside of Champaign County or whatever, that they at least let you know,
So we will be putting something out specifically about that. Even that information changes
Right.
constantly, but yes. And we are aware that we do have a couple that are going out of the country. So we will be putting information out specifically about this, that they are mandated to tell us if they went out of the country, where did they go, that they have to, we have to do a check-in and a screening when they return and things like that. I mean, we haven't put all that in writing into place, but we do have a week to, we won't wait that long, but we do have a little bit of time with spring break, so.
the staff members quarantine, they have to use their own personal days, or is that FMLA? What is that? How does that look like?
So, we are going to talk about that
Okay.
in closed session. I can
Sorry.
give you my opinions, but I tell you what I would prefer and what I would like, but I think we should wait and then give that information. And we can report out on that after closed session even publicly. I think that would be great, actually.
Okay.
But yeah, good question.
Board members have any comments? Want to present or anything? Okay. Then this moves us on to item number 14, action item, it's a closed session. Would someone care to make a motion to go into closed session for 2 reasons? The first is consider the employment, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against the employee to determine its validity. And then for B, the selection of a person to fill a public office as defined in this act, including a vacancy in a public office when the public body is given the power to appoint under law or ordinance, or the discipline, performance, or removal of an occupant of a public office when the public body is given the power to remove the occupant under law or ordinance. So care to make that motion?
So moved.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Keys,
I second it.
okay, second by Mr. Robinson, and we'll need a roll call vote, please.
Keys.
Aye.
Graham. Robinson.
Aye.
Brotherton. Sweat.
Aye. That's unanimous, motion carries, we'll be going into closed session, now what time do you have, 7:25?
We are in right next door.
And there is an action item after closed session.
Don't forget to go by your